Hello, hi. Welcome to your favorite Makoti podcast, Makoti Unveiled. I'm your host, the resident Makoti, Siya Tsewu. Now, if you're joining us for the first time, wamkelekile sithandwa, but if you're not new to this club, it's great to have you back. Now, last season, it was amazing, and this season, it's going to be amazinger. That's not a real word, is it? It's okay, but on a serious note, we really do have wonderful guests lined up for you. Now, to kick that off, we have the person you should be speaking to before there are men in jackets and hats standing outside your parents' gate shouting your clan names. Yes, you guessed it, we have an attorney in the house. And the person we're speaking to this morning is Tebello Motshwane of Sister-In-Law, who's always making sure that we get things right. Ma'am, hello. Thank you so much for joining us.
Morning, Sia. Thank you so much for having me.
Now, before I got married, an attorney friend of mine said, love is blind, but marriage is an eye opener. Now, I'm going to need you to explain to our viewers at home what are marriage contracts.
So, yeah, marriage is an eye opener.
Yeah, no.
That's for sure. As you know, on social media, on my various platforms, I'm always educating, especially women, on things like marriage contracts, so antenuptial contracts, just to explain the different marriage regimes that exist in South Africa. And the popular regime that I love encouraging people to stay away from is being married in community of property, because that one will be the true eye opener.
Ish.
Like you will see flames there. So there are different marriage regimes in community of property. That's the default system that applies if you are not entering a marriage contract with your partner. So when you're married in community of property, it means that everything you had before the date of the marriage, including the marriage itself, whether it's debts, whether it's assets, goes into what we call a joint estate. And at the termination of that marriage, then everything will be split 50-50. This means that if your spouse had, say, like school, university loans, or whatever the case is, before you even started dating, right? That loan now becomes your responsibility as well.
I wasn't there. I wasn't there.
Exactly. Exactly. So that loan also now becomes your responsibility in the event that, you guys break up or he passes away. The joint estate is going to be responsible for paying those creditors. So the trickiest part as well is if, let's say, your spouse at the time that you're married in community of property then has an extramarital affair, right? And there are, let's say, 3 children out there with 3 different baby mamas, yeah? And then your husband gets retrenched. There's no income from him to give to his kids from the outside of the marriage. So those baby mamas can say, but we know Jabulani is married in community of property and his wife works at Media 24 and she has a nice income. So please, can she maintain our kids?
But
right?
I wasn't invited to this party between Jabulani
You are
and
involved. You're involved. It's the eye opener that you were talking about at the beginning, right? So that is the obviously the disadvantage of being married in community of property. There are advantages, obviously, if you guys are relatively young, you get married, you don't have debts, you carry on building in your lives, and at the end of the marriage, there are no hectic debts. Both of you are relatively well financially. When you split, everyone takes their 50-50, and that's okay. But it's also very rare, right? It's very rare. We've also seen through COVID that things happen that we can't plan for, right? And then there's out of community of property with accrual and without accrual. With accrual, so basically out of community of property means that you guys are now concluding a marriage contract. And this marriage contract, as you rightfully said, ideally should be done before the negotiations kick off. Primarily because it's so confusing as to when was a customary marriage concluded, right? So the best time to have it done is before the negotiations start, so that in the middle there, between waiting for white wedding and waiting for this and that, if something happens to either of you, like one of you maybe passes away, unfortunately, then at least we know that there was a marriage contract, and if one person wants to fight or we were indeed married or whatever, then it is clear that you're married out of community of property because that contract would have been concluded before the negotiations. You look like you have questions.
No, ma'am. I'm going to need you to say it again for the people at the back.
So,
do we sign this before Bo Malume say Sibone Inkyachambo in your garden and we'd like to
always
pick
say
it?
I prefer that for avoidance of doubt. You know, some families get really carried away during the negotiation stage, right? Next thing you know, your mom has already organized an outfit for you and your partner. You are wearing mechi, you are married, you know. Shwe, you know. So just for avoidance of doubt, it is better to, you know, speak to your partner and say, before your uncles come, you've already now communicated your intentions with me. But before we involve our parents, let us do the marriage contract. And even when you are talking to your parents, don't say, no, first we want to do the marriage contract, blah, blah, blah. Because parents can be bullies sometimes. They're going to be like, oh, no, don't tell Jabulani's family that you want a marriage contract. They're going to think you don't love him, you know. So don't involve your parents. It's between you and your partner. Because when you start seeing those flames and paying for those extramarital kids, your parents are going to distance themselves from that mess. So that contract should really just be done between the couple. You don't have to involve your parents at that stage. In any effect, that contract only becomes enforceable if it is followed by a subsequent marriage.
Okay.
So you don't have to inform your parents that you're doing a contract.
So
you are not getting married behind their back.
Okay, so you sign the contract. The malumes are not there yet. The uncles come. They agree between themselves. We want 100 cows at this much a pop. And then the contract only becomes enforceable once there's either a civil or customary marriage. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yes. 100%. So then you can either then elect to be married out of community of property with accrual or out of community of property without accrual. With accrual basically says that everything after the date of marriage, that's what we're going to split at the end of the marriage. So you still remain responsible for your individual debts.
Your next is not my problem.
Yeah, pre and post and during marriage, everything, each of us remain responsible for our debts. The only difference is that at the end of the marriage, let's say there's a difference of 200K between the two estates. So between the husband's estate and the wife's estate. That 200K difference between the value of the two estates is what's going to be split 50-50. Just the value. The difference in the value. Then there's out of community of property without accrual, which means that your apple is your apple, my apple is my apple. We come in and leave the way we come in with our apples, leave with our apples.
So you keep your apples, I keep my bananas.
100%.
Everyone lives with
There's
their own
no
food basket.
mixing here.
Aha. Now, a lot of people may argue that because they are not rich, they don't need a will. I mean, I don't have a car, I don't have a house. What am I signing a will for? Do you then think there are people who are saying, oh, but me, I don't have property. What am I signing a marriage contract for? Me and Jablani are starting from scratch. So please explain who must sign this contract.
So look at it this way. Let's say before COVID, you're working on an app to deliver groceries. But you're married. You're working on this app to deliver groceries. It's not working out because no one believes in this. After COVID or during COVID, the only app that people are using is this grocery delivery app. Do you see how much it has grown in a space of a pandemic? And now today, people are only looking to have their groceries delivered within 60 minutes, within 15 minutes. So this guy, before COVID, he had nothing. He had an app that his wife kept saying, this thing of yours is not going to work. You're wasting time, you're wasting resources. Now it is his bread and butter. And it is big. So you can't predict that you're never going to have anything. Yes, you can go into marriage with just your briefcase or just your school bag. But what's going to happen during that marriage? What kind of luck are you going to happen during that marriage? You develop an app, you become rich. You win the lotto, you become rich instantly.
Okay. Can we change the type of marriage regime that we signed before?
Yes, that's possible. But with that, it's a court application. Okay. So I always say, you're better off paying a couple of thousands at the beginning of the marriage than paying 50 to 80K to change the marriage regime during the marriage. So it is possible to change it, but this time it's then involving the High Court, and they must then give you or grant you permission to change your marriage contract. So you need to show that, okay, we want to change from in community of property to out of community of property. Here are our creditors. We don't owe them anything. Or here are our creditors. This is the arrangement we've made with them. And then the court can then see, okay, no one will be prejudiced by this change, and they allow you to then change. And then you must get what is called a post-nuptial contract. So the one before marriage is called anti-nuptial, and the one after marriage when you're changing is called a post-nuptial agreement.
So, okay. Before I got married, story time. So we were preparing to get married, and I remember my soon-to-be husband, as he then was. We were in an attorney's office with him, the attorney, and we were going through this thing with the contract, blah blah blah. I get a call from my mom. I'm like, decline. I'll call you back later. Ne? Okay. Later comes, now I must phone this auntie. Hey, how you doing? And I must tell her, no, man, listen, I missed your call because I was busy with the attorneys, and now, but anyway, what do you want? What do you need? She's like, attorneys? What's that for? Like, no, we're just, for the marriage contract. She says, Auntie, awumthandi lo mfana. Do you not love this young man? And so we need to, can you please educate our parents on our behalf? In the words of our great legend, Tina Turner, what's love got to do with it?
So that's why at the beginning, remember, I said when you and your partner are making the decision to get a marriage contract between the two of you, don't involve parents. They most likely want to involve the church. And then the church is going to say, obviously, marriage is built on, sharing of assets or whatever, sharing and providing for one another, definitely then being community of property. But this is not for reasons of love or whatever. This is as practical as things get. It's important just to safeguard yourself and safeguard each other in the event that things don't go right between the two of you. You've been married for 10, 15 years, right? Here comes a pandemic. The person who in this marriage was actually the provider, whether it's the man or the woman, they lose their job because there's, mass scale retrenchments during the pandemic, right? They are now in debt. It doesn't matter in whose name that house belongs to. The court is coming to take everything. And what is your love for each other going to do at that point when practically the breadwinner loses their income that was paying off the house and paying off the big assets? And because now you were saying, no, we love each other. 15 years ago, you couldn't tell that there would be a pandemic.
So now this doesn't even have anything to do with divorce.
It doesn't have anything to do.
We're not breaking up.
You're not divorcing. It's just that at least in a situation where you can see, I've lost my job, there's a possibility that I won't make payments for this house. Let me transfer it into the other spouse's name so that when the court starts coming for my debts, they don't touch the house. Otherwise, you lose everything. When you're married in community of property, it doesn't matter whose name the asset is in. The court is coming to get everything. They're going to sell your house that's valued at 1 million rand. They're going to sell it for 600,000 and then they're going to auction it. You lose everything. All because when you were saying, but I really love Jabulani. Well, that love is not going to keep you keep a roof over your head
and
when things go south.
And it's snowing outside.
Hey. Exactly. Yeah, so love has nothing to do with it. It's all about just being practical. And actually, if you love each other, then the best advice is to opt for a marriage contract.
If you love each other, the best advice is to opt for a marriage contract.
100%.
Ma'am, so I think the gist of what you're saying is that if you don't sign this contract before you get married, the default setting is in community of property.
You can change, but it will be costly.
In Ramaphosa's economy.
And now when you come to me to change, I'm not going to smile with you. Because you should have done this at the beginning.
So you're going to want more money.
Yes. I'm not gonna smile because I would have said I've been telling you.
Ladies, did you hear that? Did you hear that? You don't want to see Tebello at a late stage. You
In
must
fact,
involve her first.
attorneys will take advantage when there's a crisis. That's where we really cash in. I get it now. There's a crisis.
Wait,
so
wait,
come
wait.
to us when things are still nice at
Can
the
we
beginning.
divorce and then get married again?
You can divorce and then get married again. But I've heard too many stories where you divorce and then when it's time to get married again, Jabu's like, what are you talking about?
JP.
He's like, yeah. What are you talking about?
But
Gone.
we agreed again.
He's now with Mbali.
But he said she was just a friend.
Yeah. I've heard too many stories. At own risk. I don't even advise that anyway because it's defrauding the court. Or rather, you are in contempt because you are lying, saying that the marriage has irretrievably broken down.
Yes.
Those are the conditions for a divorce, I guess.
Yes.
So,
irreconcilable differences.
So now, as your attorney, that's what I've said to the court. Meanwhile, you guys are busy plotting to get married. I mean, if he comes back, but chances are this is his ticket out as well.
He's been wanting it out.
Or your ticket
Somebody's
out.
somebody's been wanting it out.
At your own risk, I would strongly advise against it.
Tebello, thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you
me.
so much. Oh my goodness, ladies, did you hear that? What? Please do this before you get married. You don't want to see Tebello at the end because she's going to charge you lots of money. You know what? There was an attorney, he was an advocate. He's now a judge. I won't say who. But he used to say when a court wants to adjourn his case, he would say, but my lord, it would be prejudicial for my client because I don't come cheap.
Yeah.
So Tebello's not going to come cheap when you want to fix things at the end when things have turned pear-shaped or they've gone sour. Ma'am, thank you so much for coming through and explaining to Makoti Betu. At Makoti Unveiled, we believe in empowerment and making sure that what we're doing is the right thing for all of us that are involved. If you are joining us for the first time today, please do come back next time. And for those that have been with us, you know what to do. You know exactly what to do. Until next time, bye-bye, Standwa.